Hey everybody, so we're back with more Kaisereich as Commune of France. So for those of you who didn't see the first part, things are going pretty well for me actually. The Soviet Union is looks like it's going to beat Russia, and the CSA looks like it's going to win the American Civil War. So I sent substantial forces to help out both sides. I have quite a few, well, a couple elite divisions there, and a couple elite divisions over in the Soviet Union. This front is pretty much collapsed, and I just finished helping out in with the Iberians. So when the actual war breaks out, I'm going to be in a very good position to take on Germany, and that's what it's all about. Is France is to try to avenge the First World War and the losses of the Weltkrieg. So let's see here. Is there anything else I can do at the moment? So the Third Internationale is pretty large. We have France, Britain, Socialist Republic of Italy, the Iberian Federation, Indochina. I think the Commune of is another one I'd like to get under my route, but we'll see. We'll see here soon enough. Let's see what else is happening in the world. Austria. Oh, Austria went with the status quo. So once again, that's very good for us. What often will happen is when you're doing the Austria will get the the event that either forms the Danube Federation uh, or the United States of Austria, and then it becomes like a superpowered juggernaut because it literally unites all the different parts of Austro-Hungary, but that doesn't seem to be happening. Germany, I'm not really sure what Germany's up to this game. Um, Yeah, it doesn't look like they've really done too much yet. They're kind of heading towards uh, the second Weltkrieg. So what am I gonna do? Department of Revolutionary Ideals. I have to figure out what tree I'm gonna go down. I just haven't really wanted to go down the communal army tree just because it doesn't seem like it's very good. I guess Empower the Riflemen would be good, but that's just a lot of national focuses to go through. I don't really want to go to war with Germany yet. I'm not in a horrible place to fight Germany, but if I had the choice, I'd rather put it off as long as possible. As I'm building up my industry, and I want to give my allies as much time as possible. Like I want to give the Soviets as much time as they can get to build up their industry before we, yeah, do that. So let's see here. If anyone wants to like ask me questions or like anything like that, please go ahead. I'm on, I think, the last mission in Edelgard's story in Fire Emblem Three Houses. I have to say, I think it's the best Fire Emblem game. I'm just gonna come out and say it. I think they did an absolutely amazing job. Uh, I think they did a really good. My issue and why I initially kind of disliked it was because they took out S supports, but it's kind of misleading to say that they took out S supports because like okay, so there aren't S supports, but characters do get married after the um the story. So if two characters have an A rank, they'll get married afterwards, and the A rank normally involves a confession of some kind. So they didn't take out marriage options. They didn't take out romance. They just made it more like previous Fire Emblem games, like pre-Awakening games. Which I'm okay with because to me like the character interaction, trying to pair your characters off, all that kind of thing is like one of my favorite parts of Fire Emblem. So I'm glad that they kept that in the game. They just I'm fine with them not having the children. I like having the children, but I get why it's very difficult to do from a like a storytelling perspective and not have it be like ridiculous. Let's see here. Actually, I don't really need synthetic oil at the moment because my army's not really motorized yet. I just basically have a bunch of infantry. So Peroxide says, regarding Game of Thrones, do you think Daenerys should have conquered Essos instead of Westeros? She at least had some supporters. Yeah, in the Game of Thrones mod for CK2, in Dany's faction, when the Iron Fleet shows up or when Quentin Martell shows up, or I forget, when one of those things happens, you're given the option of whether you want to stay in the in Giscard in Essos and create the new Empire of Freedom. And if you do that, then you have the Empire of Giscard, and she becomes Empress Dany of the Giscari Empire. Or you can go west and conquer Westeros, obviously. So it's an interesting choice. I've done both in the game. The problem with playing as Daenerys is they have a really good dragon riders are just overpowered. And I mean they're supposed to be because they're freaking dragon riders, but it doesn't make the game particularly fun when you have something that's just so outrageously strong. Like, people will just surrender to you. So as Dany, you can just basically play a map painting game, and you can just take over basically all of Essos single-handedly. That probably would have made more sense. One of the issues, and I was reading a fanfic that kind of dealt with this, where her and Aegon the Sixth were trying to figure out who would be king, and they had thought of marrying, but in the books at least, I think Dany can't have any children. So if she can't really have heirs, there's not really a point of her marrying Aegon the Sixth. It just doesn't really make sense. So the question is, maybe he will become king and she'll become like something else. I don't know, but it's an interesting thing to keep in mind. Name a single time that time travel has added to a story in any way. Okay, that's easy. The time I can think of is Terminator. I think the Terminator movies are really good time travel science fiction done right. Particularly, obviously, Terminator 2, which is one of my favorite movies of all time. I should do a list sometime. Like, I've been meaning to do it. It's on my big list of shit that I've never gotten to. Like my top maybe 20 favorite movies or 25 favorite movies. Like, out the top of my head, number one would probably be The Matrix. What are some others? Beauty and the Beast. The Hunchback of Notre Dame. Mask of Zorro. Terminator 2. Silence of the Lambs. I'd have to go and look at my list again, but those are a couple of my all-time favorite movies. The Green Mile. Yeah, The Green Mile would be there. Probably Shawshank Redemption. I'd have to think about it some more. What else I'd put on the list? Okay, The Two Towers would be on the list. Actually, probably all three Lord of the Rings movies could be on the list. But I think The Two Towers was my favorite of the three. Am I a fan of CK2? CK2 was good when it came out, but a lot of the, like, patches they've implemented are just kind of shitty. Like, Reaper's Due is terrible, and Reaper's Due sucks, and I refuse to buy Conclave, because in my view, Conclave also kind of sucks, and they just keep releasing like all this like garbage, because they're never gonna make CK3, and the game's just aged a lot, and they just keep throwing more and more bloatware onto it. So I like it, but I think it needs to be retired. I think it needs to be put out to pasture. and I think they need a new one. HOI 4 doesn't really need to be changed anytime soon because it hasn't been around that long as far as Paradox goes. One of the issues though is they're not going to really have. There's never going to be a Victoria 3. Um, Victoria 3 cannot be made because the guy who made the economic system left Paradox. So I hope you enjoy Victoria 2 because you're never going to have a sequel, which is too bad because I'd love to play Victoria on the new Clausewitz engine, especially now that we have stuff like Theater AI. We have like Theater AI, like using this engine in Victoria 3 with like we have an international trade system in this. We have like national focuses and like it would be amazing doing Victoria 3 in this, but it's not going to happen. Victoria 2 versus EU 4. Victoria and EU are just very different. I think it's kind of hard to compare them. EU 4 has the advantage of being much newer and like having a better what's it called again? A better engine, just a better interface. Paradox eventually gets better at their interfaces. That is one thing that they do gradually improve upon as time goes on, which they kind of have to because the first time I normally fire up a Paradox game, like even since I've been playing them since like grade 9, I always like vomit and like rage quit because of how bad the interface is. Because they like this one's pretty good, but the older ones are just really really bad. Let's see, Department of Revolutionary Ideas. So let's look at logistics. This was something I really like. How it tells you what you're short and how long it's going to take for you to fill your shortage. So before I go to war with Germany, I do want to have like a huge stockpile of stuff because I'm going to burn through this stuff like crazy. In particular, let's see here. .34 and 18 cavalry. So I think I'll update the cavalry with a. Should I put a light tank in? Or maybe I should add a light tank into my. Yeah, maybe for my 40 with infantry division, I think I'll take out a couple infantry and I'll add in light tanks. I like heavy tanks more, but heavy tanks are just ridiculously expensive to put in. So 60. There we go. Light tank and cavalry is pretty good if you can't produce motorized equipment. Yeah, I think I'll go. Let me see, how many light tanks do I have at the moment? 16,000. Oh, 106, 1,600. Okay, so maybe I'll just add 2 in. No, I haven't seen the Holy Fury DLC. Is it good? I wouldn't know. I haven't played it actually. Okay, so there we go. We'll add in some light tanks. Oh, I'm out of light tanks now. Oh well. Let's see here. Italy is at war with the two Sicilies and the Papal State. Okay, so this is good. So this means I can go into a war that's not a very like serious war, and that means I can introduce, I can mobilize my economy more. Okay, let's see here. By the way, for people in the chat, what's the next Total War game you'd like them to make? I'd like Medieval 3 personally. I think I'd say Medieval 3 is the one I'd like the most, or Empire 2. I'd say like one of those two. I'd say are the highest priorities for me, as far as what I'd like to see next. Let's see here. Did anyone really want Three Kingdoms Total War? Like, were people like begging? They're like, "Oh, we really want Three Kingdoms Total War, guys." That is priority one. That is the next game that you guys have to make. They announced a Total War game based on the Trojan. Of course they did. I don't know. I've kind of given up. I just hate the new engine. Like the engine that they used post Shogun 2, I just think looks like crap. And I think it just handles really poorly. I thought the first Warhammer was actually pretty good as far as I think I felt like the engine actually worked pretty good in that one. But like on from that it's kind of garbage in my view. I just think it looks really really bad. Yeah, I'd like Empire 2. I think Empire 2 people are unfair to. Like I think they give it a lot of crap, and I don't think Empire 2 deserves a lot of crap. I feel like they were just trying to do something a bit different with it, and maybe like it didn't work out entirely as well as people might have hoped it would have. But I don't know. I really like of all the Total War games, uh, Empire is probably the one I've played the most. There's I don't know what it is about it. I just really like Empire Total War. Let's see, I need to improve my military production. The Warhammer games are okay. Um, I wouldn't say they're bad or anything. Empire One is really good. Sorry. Warhammer One is really good. Warhammer Two, I didn't think was like amazing or anything. I thought it was like okay. I guess is how I'd put it, but it was fine. I guess. Have I ever watched Avatar: The Last Airbender? Yes, I have watched Avatar: The Last Airbender. It's a good show. Um, I just kind of hated the ending. I thought the ending was like a massive cop out. I really did not like the ending to Avatar: The Last Airbender. Overall, I mean, it's a good show. It's a good show. I enjoyed watching it, but I didn't really like that, and I found Ong really annoying. I found Ang or however the hell you pronounce his name really obnoxious. I felt they really underutilized and kind of cucked Sokka. Um, that was kind of my other complaint. Also, I found Zuko really annoying. Um, I like Tara a lot, and I liked what's her name? I liked Toph a lot. Toph was probably my favorite character. Toph was awesome, just because of like how ridiculously powerful she was compared to everybody else. Spirit bending was just a lame like cop out. It's kind of reminds me of the ending to Valkyria Chronicles 4, where like the whole game was about how you sometimes have to do evil in pursuit of the greater good, and then like some Deus Ex Machina comes up to make it so that wasn't the case. Um, Katara's I really like her. I think some people think she's kind of bitchy, maybe, but I always really liked her. She just seems like a really nice girl. She's kind of the mother of the group. She's very cutie. I'm gonna say that. Uh, Toph like winds up becoming a thought. I think later on, which is really weird and just seems really out of character for her. I kind of feel like Toph is the kind of girl that you have to be a giga chad to like woo properly. But once you've succeeded, she'll kill anybody who looks at you the wrong way. So it's kind of weird that they decided to go with that. I don't. Legend of Korra looks like an abomination. Like aside from just the general degeneracy in it, Um, it just my friends who have watched should just say it's like not very good. Aside from like whatever the political narrative they were promoting in it, it's just not a good TV show. Okay, I can't do that. That's just too expensive. Okay, there we go. Um, let's see. Should I add additional AA? Hmm. Maybe I'll get rid of that and add a second anti-arid. Yeah, that's a good idea. And Korra is a hot mess of a show. Have you watched ER reviews on Legend of Korra? No, I haven't. So, like, I really like Katara. I know people might call me a lolly or something, but I don't know. I think she's really cute. I think she'd make a really good wife. Not like just like waifu thing aside. I think she would actually be a really good woman. The fact that if people think she's a little bitchy, it's because she's surrounded by people who are like really irresponsible and obnoxious. So I like her a lot. Uh, Azula is a fucking is a psycho. Azula is like legitimately one of the scariest characters in fiction. She is just fucking terrifying. Like watching when I was watching the show, whenever she was on screen, it would just send chills up my spine. Just how like cruel she was. She was a really good character though. I love the I think Ember Island might be my favorite episode. Uh because like Azula trying to be normal was like one of the funniest things I've ever seen. Like when she was trying to like flirt with the guy, and she's like, "Follow me, and we will become the most powerful couple in the Fire Nation." Like she's just, I don't know if autism is the right way to put it, but just very yeah. Also, the thing they had where they have the puppet show was awesome. Like when it goes, did Jet die? It was kind of ambiguous, which was more less exactly what happened in the show, because no one knows if Jet died or not. It was, as they said, completely ambiguous. Let's see, we'll add in some light tanks to make that a breakthrough division. Yeah, Korra is terrible. Toph I really like. Toph is a fucking is like Toph is such a badass. I kind of like how her character is just based on her being like ridiculously powerful. Like that just seems to be a big aspect of it. Okay, so I'm gonna just give them a little bit of time to rebuild, and then I'll get the Soviet Union to join the Third Internationale. Develop Norway. We're building up some domestic tungsten production. Let's see, how's factory construction going? Factory construction is going okay. I know I probably should be building a navy, but I just don't really have the resources to build one at the moment. I don't get why I can't send volunteer forces while at war. That just always seems kind of strange to me. So I don't know. I think the CSA is winning, but it's really hard to tell. They really have to knock out the American Union states soon. Which bending would you take? As much. I don't know. That's a tricky one. I'd say either air or water are probably the two that I'm the most interested in. Because airbending like allows you to fly and like makes you really agile and that kind of thing, and water just has so many cool applications to it. So I'd say those are probably my two favorite types of bending. Fire is really cool and all. I just don't know how practical it is compared to some of the other types. Oh, the Soviets can backstab you? Yeah, that's probably not going to happen in this game. Let's see here. Something like, because I haven't watched Korra, but from my understanding, can't like everybody do electric bending now? Because, like, isn't electric bending like supposed to be like some super massive, like, special thing that only Azula could do because she was like a massive prodigy? Like, that was my understanding of the situation. It just seems weird that like suddenly everybody can just do it. The Damocles Project. I'll put that off for a little while. Yeah, I've never met anybody who has anything good to say about Legend of Korra. I can't think of a single person who likes it. Let's see here. Do I like Boomy? I just don't think we really see enough of King Boomy for me to really form an opinion whether I like him or not. He seems like an okay dude, I guess. The Earth Kingdom being a federal monarchy is pretty cool. Federal monarchy is probably one of my favorite forms of government. The Fire Nation is Japan. Um, the Fire Nation is very obviously based on Meiji and I guess it would be Showa era. Showa era Japan because it's a big it's a small industrialized power that's invading not China, and it's able to beat much larger armies due to better discipline and mechanization of its forces. So yeah, the Fire Nation is Showa Japan. I'm not sure what the era was before the Showa era. Maybe someone could write that in chat. I can't remember who the emperor was prior to Hirohito. Let me see here. Maybe it's pronounced differently. Okay, Showa era. Okay, the Showa era was 1926 to 1989. The time period was the Taisho. Okay. Okay, so it's Showa and Taisho Japan. No, Showa is the era under which Hirohito was emperor. I'll paste in the chat. Showa is spelled Showa. It's a different Showa. Then there's the Taisho era, and I guess the Meiji era too. It's interesting. In a friend of mine pointed out that in the last Airbender, you have this interesting case where you have Asiatics who live in all climates. I mean, it's interesting. Asians are probably the most, East Asians are probably the most adaptable of the world's main races. Because you have those who live in extremely cold areas, such as like Manchuria and Mongolia. But then you also have ones who live in tropical areas like southern China or like Indochina and that kind of thing. And then you have people who live in kind of medium areas. They're a very, very adaptable race, far more than white people or Africans are. That's for sure. But it's something interesting. It's something I'd never really thought of. But everybody in all the races in Avatar are Asiatic, or I guess Mongoloid if you want to use the funnier term. But yeah. Let's see. Okay, yes, Earth Kingdom is specifically Ming China. Water Tribe are Inuits with blue eyes. Airbenders are Tibetan Buddhists, and Fire Nation is Imperial Japan. Yep, that's very accurate as to what happened. It's kind of funny because Japan spent all that time like building up to the Meiji Restoration, and then Emperor Meiji kind of didn't really. After Emperor Meiji, I don't think the Japanese monarchy was very powerful. After the Meiji era, I think the emperor went back to being a figurehead. It's unfortunate the Japanese imperial family only has 6 members left. Yeah, but like maybe Japanese Hitler will ascend the throne. That is my hope. Is that let me just bring up a picture of Japanese Hitler. Okay. Okay, where is Japanese Hitler? Okay, let me just. How do I do this? How do I do this? There we go. There's Japanese Hitler. The second, and I think he's second in line for the imperial throne now. His brother is currently emperor, but I think he's number 2. Yeah, he's second in line. I'm sure you can see why I call him Japanese Hitler, though. Here, this picture especially makes him look like that. The position of emperor in Japan, I think the better way to understand it is the Japanese emperor was more like the Pope. The religious duties that the Japanese emperors had to perform were so onerous and so excessive that it was very common for them to resign after a couple of years. They most emperors wouldn't reign for very long, just because of how exhausting their duties were. They'd reign for a couple of years and then retire. And um, Sorry, I lost my train of thought there when I was talking about it. Yeah, so the emperor, it's interesting because the emperors actually were very poor. They did not have a particularly large domain. So a lot of them, like, basically had to beg for money during the various shogunates. It's funny because during the the period where the regency was being controlled by the Fujiwaras, I think there is a part where the Miyamotos um, there's a part where the Miyamotos were controlling the Fujiwara from behind the throne. So what I'm trying to say is there's a period in Japanese history where the power behind the throne was being controlled by a power behind the throne. That's like some Inception shit. That's also like the most aggressively Asian form of government I can think of. The power before behind the throne being controlled by a power behind the power behind the throne. It like it goes as many levels as it needs to. Okami's really good. I don't see how Okami's a Zelda clone. It doesn't really remind me of Zelda at all, to be perfectly honest. So what was I thinking of again? Oh, so I kind of want to do a video at some point on the last Shogun. I don't recall his name, and I probably couldn't pronounce it even if I could. But something that I'd always wondered is how did the Tokugawa shogunate get overthrown? Because the Tokugawa had a massive, massive fiefdom. Like, they had, I forget how much koku they had, but they had like a huge fief. Because one of the main reasons the Ashikaga shogunate was overthrown was despite being shoguns, their actual fiefdom in their domain was not particularly large. So when the Tokugawas didn't want to repeat the same error, so they made a much larger personal fiefdom for themselves. And they had a huge number of soldiers, and if they wanted to, they could have crushed the imperial clans very easily. But what had happened was that Satsuma and Tokugawa Yashin Yashinobu. I'll just call him the last shogun. So what had happened was the last shogun was actually a very wise and competent man, and Japan was rapidly modernizing. He had built strong ties with the Second French Empire, so they were developing. They developed a national army. Japan was starting to industrialize and mechanizing. They were adopting modern administration, and that's ultimately what led to the Boshin War. Was there were these fears that uh, he was going to be Ieyasu reborn, that you were going to have a resurgence of the you're going to have a resurgence of the shogunate, because most people I think expected it to just kind of die at this point in time, like that its age was over. It was eventually going to fall off, and Japan was kind of going to become a modern country like all the others. But the last shogun and kind of the direction that things had been going was that maybe it wasn't going to die out, and it was going to be completely reinvigorated for another long period of time. So the Satsuma and Chosu were two of the, I believe that I know the Satsuma are southwest. I'm not sure where the Chosu are. I'm assuming they're probably also southwest. But they showed up with banners that said "Repel the, protect the emperor, repel the barbarians." Yeah, protect the emperor, repel the barbarians. So the last shogun, actually what happened was when people showed up with the banners of the emperor, he actually just stepped down. He refused to fight those bearing the signal of the emperor, and he presented his resignation to the emperor, who accepted it. It was actually like a family member who tried to restart the shogunate that led to the Boshin War. But if he had have wanted to, he probably could have fairly easily crushed the forces and maintained the system. But ultimately, what kind of doomed it was um, was his willingness to do it. And actually, it's interesting. After the war, the during after he stepped down, the emperor granted him a domain that was actually one of the larger ones in Japan. So he was granted a domain and a large stipend. Now the domains were returned to the emperor and the federal government later on, but there was a brief period where he had just been kind of demoted to being a normal daimyo, albeit one with a very large fiefdom. And the last shogun also went on to be given the noble rank of prince, and was a prominent member of the House of Peers, which is interesting. And I think it was a branch of the Tokugawa family who refused to accept this and started the Boshin War. But I think that you could argue the shogunate probably could have won, or at least done much better, but the last guy decided to step down. And I guess it's kind of one of those interesting. I don't know if what if is really the best way to put it, but it's an interesting like thought. Was that the honorable thing to do? Because theoretically, the shogun held his power as a servant of the emperor. In practice, the emperor was a figurehead, but he chose to stay true to his vows, I guess you could say. So it's interesting though. The interesting thing about the Satsuma was that the Ryokyu, or Okinawa, was an independent kingdom, and the king or emperor of Okinawa was a vassal of the Satsuma. So the Satsuma were in the interesting case of being a daimyo who had a emperor as their vassal, which granted them immense amounts of prestige. So they would like bring him to court and like show him off to everybody and stuff like that. And they're like, look, this guy is our, and like make them publicly do homage to them and that kind of thing. I don't think Okinawa was actually annexed until much later on. Yeah, I think Okinawa. I forget if it was like the late 18. It was I think after the Meiji Restoration that it actually got annexed in the end. Hokkaido also took a very long time. I think Hokkaido's the northern island. I think, unless I'm wrong. But the Japanese didn't actually colonize that until I think the Meiji era. They were just never particularly interested in it. Hokkaido, I think, is good for raising cattle. Um, but during the Tokugawa era, there was a ban on slaughtering animals. 1879. Okay, yeah, 1879 was when they colonized it. Yeah. Um, yeah, Okinawa is part of modern day Japan. It's a. It was actually where the Americans had their main military base for a very long period of time, because it was the only part of mainland Japan that, or just the Japanese home islands that the Americans actually took. And it was because the experience of taking Okinawa was so brutal that they decided to use the atomic bombs, because they just felt there was no. They just didn't want to go through it. Operation Downfall had an open-ended casualty estimate. The Americans honestly had no idea how many people it would take to like how many casualties would be involved in taking down Japan, and nobody really wanted to find out. They weren't very Varg lighted in that instance, at least. Uh, so it's an interesting question that people often will bring up. was Truman right in using the atomic bomb? I've pretty much always been on the side that it was the right decision to make, because I think the difficulties with fighting Japan and the difficulties of how many people would have died. But yeah. I but they wouldn't have accepted unconditional terms. Yeah, I do disagree with the Allies' insistence that countries unconditionally surrender. I think that was wrong. I think no one could really accept those terms. So on the topic of World War II, so I don't know if any of you have seen. There's a YouTuber who's a historian. His name's Tick, and Tick does this really does videos primarily about the Eastern Front. But one of his big things is kind of countering the official narrative about the Eastern Front and kind of Hitler and the generals, because there's this whole thing called the myth of the clean Wehrmacht. That is that the war was lost solely because of Hitler's incompetence and his insanity, and that if only he had have listened to his generals, things would have somehow worked out and they would have won. So it's entirely Hitler's fault. And this is kind of particularly in their memoirs. They decided they put this theory forward, and they just blamed him for everything. And nowadays we kind of have the whole idea that Hitler was crazy to invade Russia. He didn't listen to his generals. He should have attacked Moscow. All this other stuff. And when you actually look at what his plan was and the reasons for his plan, it actually makes a lot of sense. Why he invaded the USSR, what his strategy was in the USSR, that whole kind of thing. So as we're playing a World War II game, well, the deterministic war or whatever, the position Hitler found himself in the aftermath of the various campaigns in France and Poland was he had beaten all his immediate opponents, but there was really no way to defeat Britain. Operation Sea Lion was a meme. I don't think it was ever realistically going to happen. I don't think the Germans even had the ships necessary. Even if the Royal Navy was to disappear, and even if the Royal Navy was to disappear overnight and the Royal Air Force was to disappear, I think it would be very hard for them to really do anything with it. Like, to even get their soldiers all the way to the UK and to get any amount of heavy equipment there. And while the British had lost most of their heavy equipment, they still had hundreds of thousands of soldiers who at least had guns. They might not have had like tanks or whatever, but I'm sure they still had guns and lots of artillery. Also, the Royal Air Force was completely intact. So let's say they actually attempted a landing. They would have to get past the Royal Navy, and even if they could get past the Royal Navy and land some troops, the Royal Navy would immediately blockade wherever they landed. The Royal Air Force would just shred them to pieces. It would just be a complete and utter disaster. It was just not going to happen. And the Battle of Britain was never going to go in his favor to a large extent. And we'll get into this. And this is the reason why I think we have to say Hitler is a rational actor for attacking the Soviet Union, was Germany was out of oil by that point in the war. See, there isn't really anywhere in Europe that produces oil in significant amounts. Really, the only part of Europe that produced, at least at that time, any like real amount of oil was Romania. Romania had some oil, but it was, I think, only about enough to meet like 30 to 40% of the German needs. And once they had occupied France and all these other countries, they didn't have Um, they didn't have domestic oil either. And normally they would just buy their oil from overseas. Like the three biggest oil producers in the world at the time, I believe, were Venezuela, um, I'm gonna hold off for a little bit of time. Maybe until, oh, looks like the CSA might actually lose. I'll send another bunch of divisions over, maybe? I don't know. Maybe I'll send a tank. Oh, I can send up to 8? Cool. Okay, that's good news. So I'll send a small armored division over. And I think it's about time to invite the Soviet Union into the Third Internationale. So. Oh, are they at war with Siberia and Japan? Oh, okay, they are at war with Siberia and Japan. Okay, so I guess the Internationale will have to join in that, but that's okay. That is quite alright. We will struggle against the Japanese imperialists. So that'll allow me to put in... I'll just leave it on extensive conscription for now, and I'll just leave it on that. So where was I? Okay. Oh, the Irish Socialist Republic? Oh, cool. Ireland is also part of the Third Internationale. That's awesome. What was I thinking of again? Sorry, I got distracted by the game that I'm supposed to actually be playing. So, yeah, so Hitler's plan actually, I think, largely made sense because the largest oil exporters in the world at the time was the United States, the Soviet Union, and Venezuela. And he couldn't import oil from the United States or Venezuela because of the British blockade. The British blockade was ultimately what really sunk the Germans, as the civilian economy. I think people don't understand is the civilian economy of the Third Reich was imploding. Like things were in an absolutely horrific state. They had siphoned pretty much everything they could for the military, but it just wasn't enough. They also weren't really able to make rubber because they didn't have enough gasoline to fuel things. The CSA is not the Confederate States of America. The CSA is the Combined Syndicates of America. The American Union State is more like the Confederate States of America. Holy crap! The Pacific states are gonna win. Wow, that's a new one. Well, so I guess it's kind of a good news, bad news because the Soviet Union won, so that's good. But America lost, so that's kind of bad. The Sino coalition is on our side. Who's Union of Burma at war with? Oh, okay. They're at war with the Entente. Okay, sorry. Let me just get back to what I was talking about. So yeah, the German economy was collapsing. The only source of oil they had Germany. You're just going to have to suffer without any oil. So the Germans had, I believe, by the time of Barbarossa, something like 4 months of oil left. And they had to win the war within like 4 months or they'd be completely screwed. So there was kind of two strategies that were being debated at the time. Hitler's plan was to attack the Ukraine and go through the Caucasus. And he thought that was the path to victory. Here I have a map open actually. So Hitler wanted to go in through here, take the Ukraine, and go down into the Caucasus. Whereas other people were like, no, you have to go up and attack Moscow. And Hitler's like, no, I'm pretty sure I want to go down here and attack this. Um, so it's an interesting. So like historians tend to say, oh, Hitler is insane. Hitler should have attacked Moscow. He that should have been the goal. He shouldn't have sent all these people down to here. So what Hitler's plan, though, and this is kind of the difference between Hitler and his generals, is Hitler was more of a strategic thinker, and his generals were much more, what would be the term, tactical thinkers. So Germany had a food shortage and an oil shortage. They actually didn't really have a manpower shortage, at least until much later in the war. So he goes, okay, so we'll take the Ukraine, and that is the Soviet Union's main supply of food. So we take the Ukraine, even if we aren't able to get all the food back to Germany, it means the Soviet Union won't have any food. So that's a good idea. And then the other idea was we're going to take the Caucasus because Russia gets 90% of its oil from Baku down here. So we need to take the Caucasus and we need to take the oil in Baku. So that is the idea. Now my issue is always how the hell were they actually going to get the oil back to Germany? I don't even know how that was actually going to happen, to be perfectly honest. But Hitler's plan was, okay, if we can't get the oil back, that's fine. All we need to do is just occupy. Where is it? Yeah. Um, Atrasakan? Something like that, whatever it's pronounced. But if they could occupy this area around here, then it meant the Soviet Union could not ship any oil northward. And if they could hold on to it for a couple months, the Soviet economy would completely collapse as they'd have no food and they'd have no oil. And the T-34s couldn't move, and they couldn't move shit around, and it would have been a mess. So that was kind of like the plan. And Hitler's generals were like, no, that's not how you win a war. You win a war by like trying to take Moscow, which admittedly would have been a very big blow to the Soviet Union. It would have been like a really big issue, but I don't really think it would have ended the war. I think the Soviets would have kept fighting. So I think that was kind of what the actual plan was. Like when we get to Fall Blau in 1942, I think the Germans still have a bit of a chance to win the war at that point in time. The issue is just that they still have a chance. Sorry, I'm losing my train of thought here. Wonder if I should send some soldiers there or not. Maybe I'll train like some mountain divisions and send those to go help the Russians out. Yeah, I think that's a good idea. Mountaineers. support artillery, support anti-air. And yeah, recon company. So the idea is then once Russia had been brought to its knees by the taking of this area, and this is kind of where we get into the issue, is the Germans entered the war without any clear goals. Like, what was the goal? To set up a protectorate in the Ukraine and the Caucasus, to set up a series of protectorates like they did. Did they honestly think they could take all the land they took in Brest-Litovsk? Like, I just, there was no plan. They just kind of entered the war without any idea really what they were going to do once they won. And the absolute last thing you should do whenever you start a war is to enter it without an exit strategy. And I think if almost more than anything else, that's what killed the Germans in World War II, was they really had no idea what their overall objective was going into it. They had a bunch of like micro objectives, but I don't know if they necessarily had a blueprint of this is what a German victory would look like. This is what we want the world to look like after we're done. I kind of feel like they dropped the ball on that one to a certain extent, that they weren't really sure what they were doing. They just decided to do it. Like an issue like an issue Hitler ran into when he was dealing with his generals was they would be like, no, this doesn't make tactical sense, we have to like withdraw back, we have to withdraw from all this territory and then form a defensive line. Hitler's like, no, we can't beat the Soviets in a war of attrition. We can only beat them if we are able to hold on to the oil supply. Another kind of interesting, from my understanding, that the Germans never actually ran out of tanks, they just ran out of fuel. Another kind of interesting thing, if you think about it, is the Germans fought a lot longer than the Russians did. The Germans fought a lot longer than the Japanese did, is what I meant to say. The Germans completely ran out of oil by like the end of 1941. And they literally fought until until basically all of their country was just completely taken. Whereas the Japanese just didn't go on nearly as long, which is, once again, I think it's kind of an interesting juxtaposition. I get it that the Japanese got nuked, but the home islands were never actually occupied or invaded. I'm debating whether or not I should kick the Soviet Union out of the Third Internationale. Yeah, things are going really, really bad for the CSA. Fuck. And they had almost won, too. I don't know. I think the truce between the two of them is fucking lame. Let me see. Is there any other syndicalists in the world that I can help out? Why is Argentina part of the Reichspakt? That's weird. Brazil. Okay, I'm gonna redeploy a full field army to the Soviet Union and see if I can't help them out. I really don't want to. I don't want that front to turn into a complete and total mess. It looks like the light tanks are catching up. Maybe I'll add in a couple more cavalry to the to this template. Let's see, movement in forest. How much does that bring it down? Oh, not too bad actually. So I'll add that in. Let's see, cavalry, and then okay, that's not a bad division. There we go. That's substantially stronger than what I had before. There's some armor and some artillery. I wonder if I should try to make this a maybe I'll try to make this a 40 width division, or at least a 30 width division. Light tank, light tank. Add in more artillery. Low manpower. Yeah, okay, so I'll add in, I'll go to service by requirement. Argent, you listen to or read creepypasta? Yeah, I'm a huge creepypasta fan. My favorite guy by far is, what's his name? Dr. Creepypasta? Or Dr. Creepins. Yeah, I really like Dr. Creepins. He's probably my favorite. I especially like the really long ones. Those are good. Also, the series are good. I really like the Tales from the Gas Station. Actually, Tales from the Gas Station Season 1 is now available on Audible, interestingly enough, and Mr. Creepypasta actually reads it, which is pretty cool. So yeah, I'd recommend that. That's a really good one actually. It's more of a I guess a comedy than some of them, but it's really interesting. A lot of the longer ones are pretty good. Church in the Woods isn't bad. What else is there? The health, like my issue with a lot of them is they just kind of fall apart. Tommy Taffy is really good. Tommy Taffy is like legitimately terrifying. I'm trying to think of some other ones. There's Tommy Taffy. There's the Pill Mills is pretty good. I forgot. I'd have to go back and look at my list. But yeah, I like creepypastas. Mainly the longer ones where you have like a consistent character. I don't really like the short ones that are like under an hour. I like it when you have a couple parts of something and you can kind of get to grow to know the characters a bit. My biggest issue is just a lot of them, they just add in really like bizarre supernatural elements at the end. Oh, the patient who almost drove me out of medicine. That might be my favorite creepypasta. Is it Creepypasta Junior? I forget. Let me see who reads Tales of the Gas Station. Yeah, Mr. Creepypasta does that. Yeah, I'd say that the patient that almost drove me out of medicine is probably my second favorite creepypasta. After Tales from the Gas Station. Yeah. Oh, the other one I really like. Confessions of a Lonely Broadcast Station. Lonely Broadcast Station is really good. It's just a very strange story. I was supposed to link to it. That's also from Mr. Creepypasta. But no, I'm just a big fan of horror in general, so it's cool to see people coming up with all their own interesting ideas. Okay, it looks like the Soviet Republic is doing pretty good, actually. If I can hold off this war for another year or two, then yeah. Yeah, Mr. Nightmare is also really good. The left right game started out really good, but it just kind of imploded as time went on. It just kind of stopped being interesting. So oh, okay, that's interesting. Mexico's invading the American Union state. I hope that helps them out a bit. It's just it's not a huge amount I can do at the moment. Let's see. Costa Rica is part of the Entente. Yucatan is its own independent state. What? Okay. It looks like Bulgaria is going to win the Balkan War against the Belgrade Pact. Let's see. Turkey. Oh, I guess the Ottoman Empire became Turkey. Let's see. Sorry, horror stories? What is his actual like channel name? Let's see here. Uh Yeah, if you could tell me like what horror stories actually is, like what his name is. His channel name is Horror Stories. Okay. Let me see if I can find this. That just it makes it a little tricky to find it. Okay, there we go. Okay. We got this. I just had to turn on the channel filter cuz I'm a boomer. I'm almost as big a boomer as Sargon. Almost. Hopefully I'll be able to swap out the cavalry for motorized at some point. I need to build more motorized, though, if I'm going to help to do that. I admit something I almost never get around to doing in this game that I probably should is building aircraft. I just find aircraft are just super expensive and just difficult to produce in adequate numbers. I guess that's kind of why I almost never invest much time or effort into producing them. Let's do that. There's not really a point for me building a navy as the Commune of France. It's not going... I'm never going to be able to build anything large enough to challenge Germany anyways, so it doesn't really matter. Let's see here. My best hope for the shutdown with Germany is probably to go through the Ardennes and try to recreate my own version of 1941 or 1940. Let's see here. I don't know how much that'll realistically help, but I can at least provide the Soviets a bit of support on the Eastern campaign. Let's see here. Yeah, the Soviets did not have a very large army there. I should probably build some anti-tank. I don't think people use tanks that often in Kaisereich, though. I don't know. I feel like that's something more for another... That's more of a World War II thing and less of a Kaiserreich thing. So I think my strategy, like I said, is just going to be a blitzkrieg through the Ardennes. Basically exactly what Germany did in 1940. Except this will be better because it'll be a communist version of it. Well, syndicalist, so. Same thing, really. Okay, improved oil processing. More industry. I haven't really watched anything from the SCP Foundation. It's one of those things I should get into at some point. I used to be a really big Nightmind fan. Like, I used to watch everything he did. I kind of lost respect for him over House of Leaves. Because I got the book House of Leaves and I tried to read it. And I just thought it was kind of like postmodern garbage. Like, I just thought it was a... I didn't think it was very good. I guess maybe that's the best way to put it. I didn't think House of Leaves was very good, and he had built it up as like being the best book of all time, and it just I kind it kind of disappointed me. And the videos he did reviewing it were just kind of like fuck you videos, because like it's just very contrived, because he like tells you all this stuff, and then he's like, I was lying to you this whole time and you were too dumb to figure it out because I'm smarter than you. I don't know. I think Nick Nocturne's got a bit of the autism, to be honest. And I'm an honest man. If people want, I'll try to do another DSP video at some point. The only really interesting thing that's happened in the last like year, or the last like 6 months, is he has a cat now named Jasper. And in it, he actually, like, the video about it, he actually talks about how like his parents will help him pay for the cat's vet bills, because he doesn't have the money to pay for the cat's vet bills himself. It's just like, I need that money. I need that money. How much do you want to bet Jasper's going to get sick and we're going to have a fundraiser like stream to raise money for his cat? Like, I think there's like a 99% chance that that is going to happen. It's almost certainly. Pretty sure Nightmind is gay. Okay, that would explain a lot, actually. That would explain a lot. So I think I'll set the rough target for when I want to start this war as next spring, I think is what I'll aim for. If Germany doesn't start it first. Because I have a large number of transports. That's good. The Iberian Federation looks like it's in a position where it can probably hold its own, at least for a little bit of time. I'm helping out in the Far East. That seems to be going okay. Oh, he was talking about his boyfriend. Okay, yeah, that explains a lot. The only issue is I might just make one more army to deploy along the list of uh, to deploy them to Portugal. Just because I'm worried about the Iberian Federation getting horribly destroyed if things were to go bad up north. Let's see, I'll switch some of these out for mobile infantry. See if I have enough to start motorizing my army. As for religion in A Song of Ice and Fire, I might just have to talk about that some other time, because that's a very complicated topic. As for the Lord of Light, I don't know if who I'd say is probably the true god, as it were. I would probably follow the Seven or R'hllor based on where I lived. Perennialism seems to be kind of the main, like the dominant religious belief in the A Song of Ice and Fire universe. That is, it seems very common for most religions to say that other gods are variations on a single god. The House of Black and White believes that. I believe Bravos has I'm not sure if it's its official religion, but the religious beliefs of Bravos tend to be that way. Um, so yeah, there is that aspect of it. Let's see, Indian Empire. Interesting. I guess the Princely Federation can become the Indian Empire. And they're kind of, I think the Princely Federation is supposed to be allied with the Reichspakt. Oh, hey Fritz, good to see you, man. Yeah, I'm just gearing up for the deterministic war. Is tends to be what I call it in this game. So, okay, so we have lots of support equipment, lots of anti-air, artillery, motorized support equipment. I could probably actually reduce my production of some of this stuff, but I don't know. I want to have a really big amounts of stuff. Yeah, I don't have very many fighters. That might be the greatest oversight regarding this upcoming war. Oh well. I have lots of tanks, a decent amount of motorized, so we'll see. For is anti-tank worth building in these games? I've never really been able to determine whether or not anti-tank was actually worth it. I'm not really sure, to be honest. Looks like Portugal is actually fairly strong at the moment. Bernie Powers says, "Hey man, love your content, but I've never sent money before, so here is some money." Thank you. I appreciate the money. The money's good. Okay, so let's see here. Auto routes is almost done. So I think I'm going to set early 1941 as being the date in which I want to start the deterministic war. I might be starting this a bit late. I'm not really sure, to be honest. I kind of just wanted to give the Soviet Republic a bit of time to get caught up and develop its industry a bit, and hopefully maybe finish most of the war in the East before we just kind of go balls to the wall in the West. Yeah, I'm just was never really sure if are anti-tank really that much better than artillery at hard attack? Because I'd always thought artillery was like decent at that kind of thing, which tends to be why I normally just have high artillery armies more so than just about anything else. Let's see, Languedoc. I think that's Australian dollars. Plan Proust. So I can basically start the war whenever I want. So maybe what I'll do is I will try to do some of the military doctrine stuff in the meantime. Have you heard of Concrete Barrel Girl? No, that's an interesting name though. Let's see here: socialist education, communal army. Hmm. Okay, yeah, I have a massive fuel shortage. That's not going to be fun when war turns out, but I'm not really sure how much I can do about it. I kind of don't like that they took out the oil storage. Having more kind of orge storage would be really good. Storage would be good, um, particularly in this game. But yeah, let's see here. The war in the Far East is going okay, I guess. Yeah, it looks like the CSA is going to lose the Civil War. Wow. They had basically won actually. So the question is, I guess the Pacific States of America winning would be the best for me. Let's see. So if the Pacific States win, then uh, they probably will not join the Reichspakt. They might join the Entente, or not join anyone at all, or just stay neutral. So that's something to be looked forward to. I don't really know what realistically they're supposed to do. Crap, am I gonna have to put like an entire French army? I think I might have to put an entire French army down there. I hate it when you're in the position where like everybody else in your faction kind of like sucks and won't pull their own weight. So you're stuck in the unenviable position of having to deal with it, deal with their pull their weight for them. Let's see here. Soviet Republic, Union of Britain. Yeah, 600 is not very many total divisions. Then again, I guess it depends. My divisions are pretty big. Okay, so yeah, our overall fielded manpower is pretty high. I guess because I'm using 40 divisions and I'm used to using 20 division size, so that must be it. Let's see here. Research improved fighters. So I guess the big question now is who is going to start World War II? Who's going to be the one that breaks it out? I'm not really sure if it would be better for the Entente to start or for me to start or for the Reichspakt to start. The ball's probably in my court, and it would probably be in my interest to be the one to start this out, just so maybe I have a chance at hitting Germany while their guard's down. But it's gonna be a challenge. That's for sure. Let's see, motorized. Can start flipping some more of these guys over. Let's see. Okay, good. I should be able to flip that over to be completely motorized very soon. Maybe I'll increase production of that when I get the chance. Yeah, I might as well. If I'm going to go this far, I might as well just switch them all over. So then I'll have. Yeah, then they'll have a 12 km/h speed limit, which is really good. Let's see here. The communal army. I need to go with officers' initiative. Joseph Epstein. That's funny. I forget what the first name of Epstein is, but yeah. Okay, let's see. Someone's justifying a war goal against us. Okay, so Canada. It looks like the Entente wants to start World War II, which is fine. I mean, I'm not sure if that would be better. Once again, I'm not sure what would be better for me at this point in time. If it would be better to start it myself or to hold off, or let's see. Is there any other syndicalist countries on Earth, or are those kind of the only ones? I guess those are the only ones. Let me see how strong Central America kind of sucks. Iberian Federation's pretty tough. Union of Iceland is beyond worthless. Oh, you know what? I don't think I've developed my air doctrine. Yeah, okay, that's not a good idea. We gotta get that. Okay, so it's close. It's close. It's another Epstein. It must be his ancestor working in the Commune of France. Let me see. Siberia's not close to. Oh no, Siberia's mildly close to capitulation. If we could knock out Siberia, that would make this whole Eastern Front a lot easier. Wow, I'm taking a lot of casualties. I guess just because it's off in the middle of nowhere. Okay, concentrated industry, and we will... What else do I need to upgrade? I'll upgrade radar, maybe. Yeah, I should get my radar up to date. I'm just trying to get all the technologies that'll help me out when the big war breaks out, up and running. Oh yeah, I could probably update my tanks. That's probably something I need to do. Okay, yep, I can start researching that next. No, I haven't watched Man in the High Castle. I wasn't really that interested in watching it, to be honest. I don't really like the time traveling alternate history aspect of it. That just seems kind of like a cop out to me. I guess is kind of my major issue with it. Let's see here. Alright, because I got concentrated industry, that means I can increase the number of factories. Oh, okay. World War II just started. The Entente decided to start it. So we'll call the rest of the Internationale in. Wow, the Entente really does not have very much in the way of... They do not have a particularly large army. So I guess see what you can do to take the Portuguese out of the war as rapidly as possible. So I'm assuming they will be entering the war very quickly. How did I do overlaid chat? It's very easy to do in Streamlabs. Here we go. Total War is now breaking out. Is Portugal not joining? I thought Portugal was part of the Entente. Shouldn't I have to be fighting now? So I guess now I have a quandary. Should I pursue an Entente first strategy and try to take France out in the south? Or will that divide my forces too much? Because, I mean, things seem to be going okay in the Far East. I seem to be making considerable progress there. But... Germany first? Yeah, Germany first would mean... Oh, Argentina. Yeah. Look at that guy. Oh, it's Salvador Allende. He's showing up a bit early in this timeline. Okay. Oh, there we go. Now I'm part of the war. Okay. So now I can move in with my troops. And hopefully we can defeat Portugal in a couple weeks. I'm going to see if I can just get a little bit of the way through here. The phone taunt is really funny that it said that. You will never defeat Portugal. Never. I feel like the Entente is kind of underpowered in this game. Like, the Entente just kind of sucks. They get their asses kicked so easily. You'll never defeat Portugal. Never. Immediately defeats Portugal like 5 seconds later. Well, I'd like to say Portugal put up a big fight, a good fight, but that, strictly speaking, wouldn't be the truth. So something I really hate about HOI 4 is how you can't sign separate pieces. So I'm just going to use a cheat to annex Portugal. And we are going to give the territory to the Iberian Union. Fate of Portugal. Give it to our Spanish comrades. And I'll set up 2 sister republics from the rest. Wait a minute, that doesn't make any sense. I wanted to give it to Iberia. I didn't want to give it to the to make it its own. Making its own like pocket independent country doesn't make any sense. There's no option to give it to the rest of Spain? What? Give control of state. Okay, that's really weird. The annex decisions is something they put into Kaisereich. I used a cheat to annex Portugal before the war ended. Just because I find it annoying that you can't do that. Because in like Hearts of Iron 2, you could set up puppet states before the actual country surrendered. So let's see here. Yep, the CSA is now dead. Need to get the state transformed mod. Wait a minute, what happens if... I'm trying to figure this out. So, what happens if a different faction wins? I don't know. It doesn't make any sense to me. I guess I'll go with the anarchists, because I need manpower. Internal security. Why is it making me take all these fucking random decisions that are lowering my stability? It's really not something I want when I'm heading into a war. Yeah, I wonder what happens if a different group wins. Let's see here. Now, something I will need to set up is radar stations, because the Germans are inevitably going to be attacking me very heavily from the air, and so I need to just coat France with AA guns. Ile-de-France, and we'll build that. Okay. Right, I had said I was going to start the war this year, so we might as well get this going. Next time I have a national focus, we will begin the invasion of Germany. I'm going to be doing that, though. I should be building my military infrastructure. I don't think realistically I can do too much more in the Far East. I guess I'll keep these guys as my reserve division. Wait, what? Central America capitulated? Fuck. Who took them? Canada? The Entente isn't so much dangerous as just kind of a thorn in the side of the Internationale. They don't exactly have the forces to challenge me directly, but mission type tactics, flexible support. Okay, everybody. Let's get this fucking war started. We're gonna watch me get horribly destroyed. I don't think there's any real chance of us being able to beat the Reichspakt, but that's never stopped me before. Maybe they'll give me Alsace-Lorraine. I mean, that's possible. Anything's possible in Star Trek, except this isn't Star Trek. But I'm just not really in a position to help out any of the other members of the team. I'm scared that the Union of Britain is going to get invaded by Canada. 'Cause the AI in this game is not very good, and the Union of Canada is very close with a lot of soldiers. And the. You know what? I'm going to. Oh, no. It looks like Union of Britain might actually be fortifying its coasts a bit. So that's good. I think I'm going to move this group of guys to the Union of Britain just to help them out in case Canada decides to invade. Because I cannot allow the Union of Britain to collapse because it's literally my only ally at this point. My only, like, I guess the Iberian Federation aren't that inept, but well, if nothing else, I definitely have a lot of equipment built up. Let me see here. And we'll build some. Okay, I got some fighters here. They'll be doing, I guess, air superiority over France. I'm not going to have anywhere near enough air superiority to hope to match the Reichspakt, but at least what I can do is maybe produce enough that I can defend my skies from Germany. This game kind of makes me sad because it's like Canada could have been this awesome. Canada could have been like an authoritarian democracy. If only. If only. Where are these assholes sending all of their... I don't know where these guys are sending everybody. It looks like they're withdrawing them back from somewhere, though. Maybe they know that the war with Germany is going to happen any day now. Okay, airland battle. And then I'm done mobile warfare, or whatever that was. Holy fuck, the Soviet Union has literally no soldiers on the Eastern Front. What the fuck? Okay, well, this is gonna go well. Okay, I shouldn't have to fucking man the Soviets, like, basic defenses by myself. But I guess if I want them to last for, like, more than like 5 seconds and hopefully get some of their troops to go west, I'm gonna have to. take over, at least slowing these guys down. Demand Alsace-Lorraine. The Alsace Ultimatum. The Germans refuse. What better time than now? Okay, here we go, guys. Let's see if the army is ready. It's time for Operation Chocolate Starfish. Okay, guys, I'm gonna have to win this war. Like, I don't know if win, but I'm gonna have to, like, severely injure Germany really quick if I have any hope of getting anywhere in this war. Second Welterkrieg. Uprising in Wallonia and Lorraine. That sounds good to me. Focus bypassed around Ludendorff. Gain annex goal against the Netherlands. Let me see how big the Reichspak's army is. The Reichspak's army is going to be, what, like 1,000? Actually, it's nowhere near as big as I thought it was. Okay, cool. Okay, then this might actually not go that badly then. Oh, fuck. Austria's intervening. Oh. I guess I'll send my reserves to go try to hold the line here. Holding the line shouldn't be too hard since it is Austria. Ooh, okay, that's a lot of shit that's going through. Okay, the question is, what do I do now? I guess maybe finish the military tree. I don't really have anything else to do with my national focus. The fall of Petrograd. Yeah, the Soviets are fucked. Oh, fuck. I feel like this is just like going to be an unmitigated disaster, at least on the Eastern Front. Honestly, the Reichspakt actually doesn't have as big an air force as I thought it would, so I might actually be able to get air superiority. At least to a limited degree. Yes, Uruguay is the whitest country in Latin America. It's also the most paused country in Latin America. Uruguay, I think, has the highest rate of atheism of anywhere in the New World. I think of any country. It's one of the highest on Earth. Oh, okay. Well, that seems to be kind of working. All right. The Germans are on the run. Total mobilization. Put that on. Yeah, I'm going to have to expand my synthetic oil production. I'm going to have any hope of getting through this in one piece. Just trying to see where everybody's deploying. I guess these guys are going down to help out Chile, but Chile looks like it's dead. Chile is not really going to do anything. It looks like most of my allies are not doing well. Hopefully the Soviets aren't too close to capitulation. Because the Soviets should be able to put up something resembling a fight. It looks like they've wisely taken most of their divisions off of the Far East. Wow, this invasion really got bogged down quick. They seem to be having more luck on the German front, so I'm gonna move down some more soldiers to that position. Okay, it looks like the Soviet front has stabilized at least a little bit. The Iberian Federation doesn't look like it's doing too much. I'm mostly kind of stuck fighting my own war here. So I'm going to have to abandon aggressive tactics, and this is going to kind of become a war of attrition, which I really didn't want it to be. I guess I've taken a bit of territory in Germany, but not really enough to make it worthwhile. I don't think anything of Canadian whiskey. I don't drink alcohol. Okay, so it looks like the Soviet Republic is gearing up. Fuck. Okay, it looks like the Italians have completely fucked this whole thing up. And I don't know. I think the war's kind of lost at this point, honestly. There's just too many people who all declared war on me at the same time. I think it all ultimately kind of came down to because like the Internationale's pretty strong, but not strong enough for literally everybody on Earth to declare war on them at once. I don't know what I could have done better, like how I could have figured this one out. Like, where did it all go wrong? I guess the CSA losing was kind of where it all went wrong. Maybe I should have started the war earlier. Maybe I should have just left the Soviet Union as a neutral country. Because they're going to get collapse, and once they collapse, I'm completely fucked. Because there's going to be even more German soldiers. See, is Germany even taking significant casualties? Okay, yeah, Germany's taking fairly large casualties from me. Fuck. Or how much of this is the AI cheating? That's another thing to always keep in mind when you're playing these games. Because the AI does, like, cheat to a disgusting extent. Okay, so it looks like the my allies decided to devote all of their attention to the South American front. It looks like they're doing okay, actually. If they could win there, then that would be, I guess, something. Are there any other syndicalist countries in the world that I could call into this war? I mean, there's got to be a couple other ones. Nope. See, I don't know if there's even really a point in playing past this point, unless I want to use cheats to try to make this war competitive again. Because, frankly, I don't have the troops to defeat Germany. Um, the Socialist Republic of Italy is about to collapse. The Austrian Empire is an overpowered juggernaut. That alone is gonna fucking just overrun me. Like, fuck. What the fuck? The Reichspak's up to that many? Like, I can't fight the entire war just by myself. And there we go. They're gonna lose because the AI can't protect its fucking coasts. I don't know, for whatever reason, the AI will just not protect its coasts. And because of that, I'm gonna lose this war, which we really shouldn't have had to lose because all they had to do was hold fucking mountains. But what the fuck? Bulgaria joined Austria? Okay, so at this point in time, I'm gonna have to start using cheats because if I don't, then I'm completely fucked. You cannot sign a white peace with Austria. Why can't I sign a white peace with Austria? I'm at war with Austria. Oh, is Hungary maybe the leader? No. Okay. So it won't let me sign a white peace with Austria. Offer peace. What the fuck? How? Oh, fucking like glitched. Wow. Okay then. Well, that's fucking great. Okay, so I can't do that. That's not an option. Okay, tag. SRI. Annex. ITA. Tag. So we'll see if that helps Italy a bit. Let's see here. Let's upgrade that to modern infantry equipment. Let me see what else I can do. Because I honestly just not sure how I can even fight this war at this point in time. Okay, that seemed to help out the Italian front at least a little bit. Let's see, Grand Armée. Failed to find a way. Well, there's always failed to. I don't get why it's always a conditional surrender. Like, that's another thing that I hated about this is they took out like peace agreements, so you can't like surrender and only give like one province to them. You can only surrender on the condition that they take absolutely like your entire country and annex you. But yeah, this whole thing is a mess. Belgium is just not going anywhere. I'm not going anywhere in actual Germany. I guess the Soviets are doing slightly better now than they were earlier, but I'm not sure. Let's see here. Add in anti-tank rifles. Okay, so it looks like things are going pretty well. I normally do royalists as Russia. Okay, there we go. So that actually seems to have stabilized things somewhat here. I think the Germans are losing a lot of men on this ill-conceived amphibious assault. Like, here's really bad AI in action. Basic common sense would suggest that you would bring a lot of troops back in order to contain an amphibious landing, but they seem to have completely fucked this one up. So I don't have anybody really to send. I guess I'll send these guys here once we finish this off. Okay, there we go. I guess I have these 16 I can send down and try to contain this disaster in the southern Spain. National Populist Russia is another good country to play as, but okay, it looks like the Italian theater is at least stabilizing. Oh, wait a minute. Bulgaria's become a communist country now? Oh, cool. Okay, so maybe this isn't so bad after all. All right. I have a couple extra countries now in the that I can call in to help me out in my hour of dire need. So, yeah, maybe this is going to be maybe this is going to fix it. I don't know realistically how much Bulgaria and Greece will help, but every couple bodies I get thrown on is always a good thing. Especially since Bulgaria was a member of the other side. Let's see, Third International. Okay, so neither of them really have that much to contribute, but it's better than nothing. Okay, so maybe this war isn't going quite as bad as I initially thought it was. I really do need to kick the Entente off of the continent, though. A victory in Argentina would help a bit. I don't know, the CSA is doing bad, but they're not doing as bad as I thought they would be. I'm really worried about Union of Britain, though. They have pretty much no reserves on the home front. I don't know. If I'm going to get anywhere, I'm going to have to use a manpower cheat. Because I'm completely out of it. And I'm having to basically do everything for my entire alliance. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And I'll train another couple divisions for my reserve force. Yeah, I've never seen the Pacific States win the Civil War before. I almost never see the CSA win the Civil War. I can't really think of a time where I've seen it. Let's see. The French Communard War. Okay, so things seem to be turning around on one front at least. Italy seems to have stabilized. The big thing, though, I'm worried about is the Union of Britain and Soviet Russia. In my games, I find the Federalists almost always win the American Civil War. It's very rare that I find anyone else does. Okay, so let's see. I might try to send some more soldiers to fight on the Russian front. Okay, so yeah, it's really hard to know how things are actually going at this point in time because I guess in some ways I've stabilized the front. I'm actually having some success in Germany. I've managed to take back most of Alsace. Oh, free civilian factories. Okay. I guess I'll just keep expanding my military factory production and build some more synthetic oil. I don't really have anything else to build at this point in time. Let's see here. I guess I could upgrade that and that. And whatever infrastructure is left. Right, and I'll deploy these guys east, I think, to help out in Russia. Oh, they actually seem to be having considerable success against the Ukrainians. I'm not sure if the Ukrainians are just not particularly competent or what's going on, but I'm not going to look a gift horse in the mouth. If they can beat the Ukraine, then that'll, I don't know, help the Eastern Front situation. I kind of feel like I need to at least win on one of these fronts. Let me see what my aircraft are like at the moment. Oh, I actually have air superiority? Really? That's really odd. So I didn't really have that many aircraft heading into this war, but I guess I built enough in the meantime. Okay. I'll send those guys up there. Let's see. Well, I do have a lot of radar, so I guess that helps out. Let's see here. I do have heavy AA. I guess it's just kind of degenerated into a brutal war of attrition at this point in time. I guess I could send land lease. I don't know if land lease would really help them that much, but I guess it's worth a try. Oh, I already give them land lease, and they okay. I don't know how much it's actually helping them, but sure, I'll give them some. I'll increase the amount of stuff I'm sending them. Yeah, and the AI will just not protect the coast. They just seem incapable of doing it. Fuck the fall of Moscow. And just when the Ukraine was about to capitulate, too. I mean, the Ukraine is getting pretty badly wrecked. I guess I'm just gonna have to try to focus on knocking Germany out of this war as quickly as possible, and hopefully I'll be able to I don't know, salvage something out of this fucking shit show. Okay, there we go. Why? What would I call it other than the Ukraine? Than Ukraine? Like, is there another name for the country? Like Kievan Rus or something? I just thought that was the name of the Ukraine. Okay, let's see. Yeah, the Soviet Union's not doing very well, but it looks like Germany's not doing particularly well either. At this point in time, I think I really just have to hold out on this for a little while longer. Because it looks like I'm actually making some progress here. Let's see here. Let's see what the casualties are like so far. Okay, so similar between me and Germany. Although I use bigger divisions, so that's probably part of it. Oh, Russia's only halfway to capitulation. Okay, that's good. Okay, Ukraine's almost there. Hopefully, it won't last too much longer. I'm not sure if I should send the next division that's finished into to join the German front, or if I should send it into Russia, because I don't know if the Russian situation is salvageable, to be honest, at this point in time. Yeah, you know what? It's time to get out while the getting's good. You've done the best you can, boys, but you're more useful on the German front, so just withdraw out of there and head back. Well, we still have a port to use. looks like this war is going to be decided on the Western Front. So basically at this point, as many divisions as I can throw on here to try to win before the... So it is like World War One all over again. The Germans have won on the Eastern Front, and I'm launching a desperate attempt to win before they can shift their forces in the opposite direction. I think more people in Belarusia speak Russia than speak Belarusian. I don't think that many people actually speak Belarusian, to be honest, if memory serves. Okay, good. So that division will at least hopefully make it back, and we can really use all the forces we can on this front because it's not going well. It's going okay, I guess. I don't know. It's not going good. It's not going bad. It just kind of is what it is. You know what would be really nice if Union of Britain would drop a an invasion force in Germany and just divide the front for a little bit of time. That would be really nice. That would help me out a lot. Okay, let's see here. Anyways, guys, it's late and I don't think this is going to get resolved tonight, so I'm going to go to bed. Good night, everybody. God bless. Have a good weekend. This is Argent.